may have originated in lab linked to China's biowarfare program. The deadly animal-borne coronavirus spreading globally may have originated in a laboratory in the city of Wuhan linked to China's covert biological weapons program, said an Israeli biological warfare analyst. Radio Free Asia last week rebroadcast a Wuhan television report from 2015 showing China's most advanced virus research laboratory, known the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The laboratory is the only declared site in China capable of working with deadly viruses. Danny Shoham, a former Israeli military intelligence officer who has studied Chinese biological warfare, said the institute is linked to Beijing's covert bioweapons program. Mr. Shoham told The Washington Times,
"Certain laboratories in the institute have probably been engaged, in terms of research and development, in Chinese biological weapons, at least collaterally, yet not as a principal facility of the Chinese BW alignment.
Work on biological weapons is conducted as part of dual civilian-military research and is definitely covert," he said in an email. Mr. Shoham holds a doctorate in medical microbiology. From 1970 to 1991, he was a senior analyst with Israeli military intelligence for biological and chemical warfare in the Middle East and worldwide. He held the rank of lieutenant colonel. China has denied having any offensive biological weapons, but a State Department report last year revealed suspicions of covert biological warfare work. A Chinese embassy spokesman did not return an email seeking comment. Chinese authorities said they do not know the origin of the coronavirus, which has killed at least 80 and infected thousands. Gao Fu, director of the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, told state-controlled media that initial signs indicated the virus originated from wild animals sold at a seafood market in Wuhan. "One ominous sign," said a U.S. official, "is that false rumors circulating on the Chinese internet claim the virus is part of a U.S. conspiracy to spread germ weapons. That could indicate China is preparing propaganda outlets to counter any charges that the new coronavirus escaped from one of Wuhan's civilian or defense research laboratories." The World Health Organization is calling the microbe novel coronavirus 2019 nCoV. At a meeting Thursday in Geneva, the organization stopped short of declaring a public health emergency of international concern. China has deployed military forces to Wuhan to halt all travel out of the city of 11 million people in an effort to contain the outbreak of the virus, which causes pneumonia-like symptoms. The Wuhan Institute has studied coronaviruses including the strain that causes severe acute respiratory syndrome (SARS), H5N1 influenza virus, Japanese encephalitis and dengue. Researchers at the institute also have studied the germ that causes anthrax, a biological agent once developed in Russia. Coronaviruses, particularly SARS, have been studied in the institute and are probably held therein. Mr. Shoham said, "SARS is included within the Chinese BW program, at large, and is dealt with in several pertinent facilities. It is not known whether the institute's coronaviruses are specifically included in China's biological weapons program, but it is possible," he said. Asked whether the new coronavirus may have leaked, Mr. Shoham said, "In principle, outward virus infiltration might take place either as leakage or as an indoor unnoticed infection of a person that normally went out of the concerned facility. This could have been the case with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, but so far there isn't evidence or indication for such incident. After researchers sequence the genome of the new coronavirus, they might be able to determine or suggest its origin or source." Biological Weapons Convention. Mr. Shoham, now with the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies at Bar Ilan University in Israel, said the Virology Institute is the only declared site in China known as P4 for pathogen level 4. That status indicates the institute uses the strictest safety standards to prevent the spread of the most dangerous and exotic microbes being studied. The former Israeli military intelligence doctor also said suspicions were raised about the Wuhan Institute of Virology when a group of Chinese virologists working in Canada improperly sent to China samples of what he described as some of the deadliest viruses on Earth, including the Ebola virus. In a July article in the journal Institute for Defense Studies and Analyses, Mr. Shoham said the Wuhan Institute was one of 4 Chinese laboratories engaged in some aspects of biological weapons development. He said the secure Wuhan National Biosafety Laboratory at the institute was engaged in research on the Ebola, Nipah and Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever viruses. The Wuhan Virology Institute is under the Chinese Academy of Sciences, but certain laboratories within it have linkage with the PLA or BW-related elements within the Chinese defense establishment, he said. In 1993, China declared a second facility, the Wuhan Institute of Biological Products, as one of 8 biological warfare research facilities covered by the Biological Weapons Convention, which China joined in 1985. The Wuhan Institute of Biological Products is a civilian facility but is linked to the Chinese defense establishment. Mr. Shoham said it is thought to be involved in the Chinese Biological Weapons Convention program. China's vaccine against SARS is probably produced there. This means the SARS virus is held and propagated there, but it is not a new coronavirus unless the wild type has been modified, which is not known and cannot be speculated at the moment, he said. The annual State Department report on arms treaty compliance stated last year that China engaged in activities that could support biological warfare. Information indicates that the People's Republic of China engaged during the reporting period in biological activities with potential dual-use applications, which raises concerns regarding its compliance with the BWC, said the report, adding that the United States suspects China failed to eliminate its biological warfare program as required by the treaty. The United States has compliance concerns with respect to Chinese military medical institutions' toxin research and development because of the potential dual-use applications and their potential as a biological threat, the report said. The biosafety lab is about 20 miles from the Hunan seafood market, which reports from China say may have been the origin point of the virus. Rutgers University microbiologist Richard Ebright told London's Daily Mail that, at this point there's no reason to harbour suspicions that the lab may be linked to the virus outbreak. Australia joined the Trump administration in temporarily barring foreigners who have recently visited China. The United States and Australia are temporarily denying entry to non-citizens who have recently travelled to China, hoping to limit the spread of the new coronavirus to their countries. The American restrictions, announced on Friday, exempt immediate family members of American citizens and permanent residents. Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced Australia's temporary ban on Saturday, saying that Australian citizens, Australian residents, dependents, legal guardians or spouses would still be allowed into the country. American officials also said that any United States citizen returning home who has been in the Hubei province of China within the past 14 days, believed to be the virus's incubation period, will be quarantined for up to 14 days. Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak, is in Hubei. Those who have been to other parts of China within the past 14 days will be subject to proactive entry screening and up to 14 days of monitoring and self-quarantine. The United States will also funnel all flights from China to just a few airports, including Kennedy in New York, O'Hare in Chicago and San Francisco International Airport. Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, said the American actions were being taken because there were a lot of unknowns surrounding the virus and its transmission path. The number of cases have steeply inclined with every day, Dr. Fauci said. The announcement came as major air carriers suspended flights between the United States and mainland China. American Airlines, Delta Air Lines and United Airlines said direct air service would be halted for months, news that rattled the stock market and industries that depend on the flow of goods and people. Qantas followed suit on Saturday, announcing its own suspension of flights to China.